How does one joke about a hotter trainer turn into a stack of divorce papers in a gym lobby? Why did my husband stay calm, gather proof, and wait until everyone was watching to end our marriage? What if the villain of the story isn't the man who called the lawyer, but the woman who thought humiliation was harmless? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Isolde Lane, and I decided this year that I would not be the tired mom wife anymore. I was only 31, but I saw small lines near my eyes and a bit of soft belly in every mirror. It felt like a warning. I told myself I would fix it before it got worse. I said to my friends that I wanted to feel like myself again. The truth is, I wanted to feel better than myself. I wanted to feel untouchable. Aaron, my husband, was fine with it at first. He said he was happy I was taking time for myself. He said he would handle bedtime with Mila when I had late classes. He even joked that soon I would be stronger than him. I laughed and told him I already was. I did not say it as a joke. Our mornings were a pattern. He made coffee and packed Mila's small lunchbox while I studied my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I pulled at my leggings, checked how my sports bra fit, turned sideways. He asked if I could drop off the rent transfer that day. I said he could do it faster on his laptop. I did not want to think about rent. I wanted to think about abs. My gym was a bright, new place downtown, with loud music and mirrors everywhere. The first day I met Marco, he walked over with that easy smile and light voice. He said it looked like I had good form already. I said I was still learning. He told me he could help me unlock my real body if I booked personal sessions. I liked the word unlock. It made my normal life sound like a mistake. By the third week, I had booked him 3 times a week. Aaron asked if we could afford that. I said it was still cheaper than his tech gadgets. That was not really true, but it sounded right. He frowned at his spreadsheet on the laptop and said we should go over the budget. I rolled my eyes and said I trusted him to handle boring money stuff. He kept a folder on the desktop named Household with clean little lines of numbers. I always hated that folder. It felt like a cage. With Marco, there were no tidy lines. There was music and sweat and the way he stood just a bit too close when he corrected my form. He told me my progress was crazy fast. I told him it was because he pushed me harder than anyone. When he held my waist to guide a squat, his hands were firm and sure. It felt like proof of my worth. I told myself it was still innocent, because it was only the gym. I liked how other people watched us. Tara, my coworker, joined my gym after I posted one mirror selfie. She said she needed my trainer. She said in a low voice that he was hot and asked if Aaron was jealous yet. I answered that Aaron was too busy with cables and emails to notice. I said it like a joke, but I wanted the joke to hurt him, even if he wasn't there. Tara loved making stories for social media. One Friday night, she invited me and my sister, Phoebe, to her apartment. She said we should have a strong hot wives' night. Aaron was on the sofa at home with Mila, a cartoon on the TV. He asked what time I would be back. I said not late and kissed the top of his head, not his lips. He asked if I could put Mila to bed first. I said she could stay up with him for once. I did not wait for his answer. At Tara's place, there were string lights and cheap wine and loud music from her phone. We were not wild, but we were loud enough. Tara kept pointing her camera at us, shouting that we needed content. Phoebe asked if Marco had seen me in real clothes yet. I said he saw plenty under my leggings. They screamed and laughed. I felt warm and light. I talked about Marco more and more. I said he knew how to push me, how to motivate me, how to see me. I said Aaron was nice, but he was not hungry like that. Tara told me to say that again on camera. She lifted her phone and held it close to my face. She asked what I liked better, my husband or my trainer. I should have said something soft. Instead, I felt a mean little thrill. I smiled into the camera and said my trainer was obviously hotter than my husband, and more motivated too. I said it very clearly, so the phone would catch every word. Tara shouted that this was gold. Phoebe howled with laughter and fell against the couch. For a second, I did think about Aaron sitting in his old t-shirt at home. Then I pushed that thought away. I told myself he would never see it. Even if he did, he should be proud I had a hot trainer. It would mean he had good taste. Tara tagged Marco in the story and added fire emojis around his face. She typed a caption about upgrading your life and told me this would get views. I saw the little circle spin as it uploaded. It gave me a rush, like we had done something important. I told them Aaron would probably sulk when he saw it. They said he needed to man up. I agreed. I said respect follows results, and I had results. All the way home, my phone buzzed with little hearts and laughing faces. One girl from the gym replied that she shipped me and Marco. Another wrote that IT guys were always boring anyway. I liked their messages. I liked the idea that my life looked like a fun soap opera, not a normal marriage with laundry and bills. When I opened the apartment door, the lights were low. The cartoon was over. The only glow came from Aaron's phone on the coffee table and the baby monitor next to it. He was sitting on the sofa, elbows on his knees. The video on his screen was paused on my face, mouth open mid-sentence, Tara's stickers around me. He did not jump or shout, he just looked up at me with that steady, tired gaze. He asked in a quiet voice if that was what I really thought of him. I said it was just a joke for the girls, and he needed to relax. He said nothing after that. He turned the phone face down and stood up to go check on Mila. As he walked down the hall, I picked up his phone and saw my own voice frozen in the small thumbnail, my trainer's handle tagged in bright letters below. For a second, something cold slid through my chest. Then I told myself again that it was only a joke, and that if he was hurt, that was his problem, not mine. The next morning, Aaron moved around the kitchen like he was in a dream he did not like. He made coffee, packed Mila's lunch, and hardly looked at me. I felt a small sting, but I also felt annoyed. He asked if I really wanted that video of me talking about Marco to stay online. I said it was not that deep and he was acting like a teenager. I told him people understood jokes. In my head, I added that he should be glad anyone still thought his wife was hot. He said it looked bad for both of us, and that strangers were making comments about our marriage. I answered that if our marriage was strong, a silly video would not matter. I said if he was hurt, it showed he knew he had been lazy as a husband. He went quiet after that, which I told myself was proof he knew I was right. At work, Tara rushed up to the reception desk with her phone out. She said the story had done really well, and that even some guys from the gym had reacted with laughing emojis. She asked if Marco had replied yet. I checked my own phone. Marco had sent a short voice note saying I was trouble in a playful tone. Tara clapped like a child. She said I was living a main character life now, and Aaron should be careful or he would lose me. I smiled and pretended to be shy, but inside I liked the idea of being precious enough to lose. Around lunch, Aaron sent me a message. He asked if we could talk tonight before the family dinner we had planned for his friend's birthday. I rolled my eyes at the screen. I told him we could talk after, because I did not want to start drama before seeing everyone. He replied with a simple, "Okay." Tara saw the exchange over my shoulder and said he seemed clingy. I let her think that. In the late afternoon, I went home to change. Aaron was dressed in a clean shirt and dark jeans. He looked good, in a normal way. I noticed and then pushed the thought away. He asked if I could please not bring up the video at dinner. I said people would ask, and I was not going to lie. He said he did not want to be the punchline again. I said if he did not act like a victim, no one would see him that way. He looked at me for a long time, like he was trying to find the person he married. Then he helped Mila into her small shoes and said it was time to go. The restaurant was a casual family place, with long tables and colored plastic cups for kids. The air was full of fried food and chatter. Ryan sat near Aaron, and Elaine sat across from me, her hands folded neatly on the table. My sister Phoebe slid into the seat next to me. She whispered that she had watched the video 5 times and that I was savage. She said Marco must be feeling himself now. I laughed and told her that Erin was the one overreacting. As soon as we were settled, Tara waved her phone and said she had to show everyone the famous story. Before I could answer, she pressed play and set the phone in the middle of the table. My own face looked back at me, laughing, calling my trainer hotter and more motivated than my husband. Half the table laughed on cue. Phoebe told Aaron not to be mad, that it was obviously a compliment to have a wife that someone else might want. One of Aaron's friends joked that he should start lifting before Marco stole me away. Aaron did not laugh. He asked Tara if she could take it down now. His voice was calm but tight. I felt a flush of embarrassment, but I turned it into anger. I told the table Aaron had been sulking all day about a simple joke. I said some men could not handle having an attractive wife with a social life. Ruth nodded and said men had always been fragile, and everyone chuckled at that. Elaine did not laugh. She asked Aaron, in a soft voice, if he was okay. He said he did not like being mocked as a bad husband in public. I rolled my eyes and told her he was making everything about him. I said the real issue was that he did not support my health journey until it made him insecure. I made it sound like he was trying to drag me down now that I was improving myself. The rest of the meal turned into small jabs at Aaron. Someone asked if he was afraid to come to the gym and see Marco. Phoebe said he got tired just watching a warm-up. Tara said Marco could probably teach Aaron how to be a real man. They all spoke lightly, like it was harmless. I did not stop them. I smiled and told them Aaron knew I was only teasing. Across from me, Aaron's jaw clenched. He focused on cutting Mila's food into small pieces and did not join in the jokes. To the others, that made him look sulky. To me, it made him look weak, and I hated that I thought that. When the cake came out, everyone gathered for pictures. Tara pulled me close and said we should take a hot wife, boring husband photo. She posed us with Aaron standing a little behind, his face barely in the frame. She told him to smile more. He smiled, but his eyes did not match. Later, when I saw the photo, he looked like a stranger standing next to us in his own life. After dinner, we stood in the parking lot under the yellow lights. The air was cooler there. Elaine hugged Mila and said she would see her soon. Then she looked at me and said she hoped we would be careful with what we put online, because things on the internet could not be unsaid. I answered that she should not worry, that our generation understood these things better than hers. She did not argue, but there was a sad, steady look in her eyes that made me feel like I had failed a test I did not agree to take. Ryan clapped Aaron on the shoulder and asked if everything was good. Aaron said they would talk later. Phoebe leaned on my car and told me again that I should not let Aaron guilt-trip me. She said if he kept this up, I should just leave and find someone who respected my growth. I told her he was just scared of change and that he would adjust. I believed that for a second. I wanted to believe it. On the drive home, Mila fell asleep in the back seat. The car was quiet. Street lights passed over Aaron's face, leaving parts of him in shadow and then in light. He asked if I understood how small he felt at that table. I said he chose to feel small and could also choose not to. He said he did not want his marriage to be a joke people shared on their phones. I said only boring people got offended by humor. He did not answer. When we pulled into our parking spot, he sat for a moment and looked at his phone. I leaned over to see the time, and that was when I noticed a new calendar alert on his screen, set for the next day. It said, downtown, 10:30 a.m., personal. I asked if he had a secret gym membership too. He said he just had errands. I laughed and told him he was finally getting a life. I did not ask what kind of errand needed its own calendar alert. I told myself it was nothing, because in my version of the story, I was the only one allowed to make big moves. The next week, I threw myself even harder into the gym. It felt easier to be there than at home. At the gym, the lights were bright, the music was loud, and people looked at me like I was changing, improving. At home, Aaron just watched me with quiet eyes that made me feel heavy. One evening, I came out of the locker room and saw Marco already waiting by the squat rack. He had a towel over his shoulder and a grin like we were starting some secret game. He said he saw the famous video and that now he had to live up to his reputation. I laughed and told him my husband was being dramatic about it. I said Aaron could not take a joke. Marco raised his eyebrows and said some guys had fragile egos. It satisfied me to hear a man say that about my husband. During our session, he stayed closer than usual. When he adjusted my stance, his hands held my hips a little longer. When I leaned back on the bench, he stood over me, correcting my grip, and I felt his breath on my face. I told myself this was how trainers worked with all their clients. At the same time, I liked feeling special, like I had earned extra attention. When I came home late, Aaron was at the table with his laptop open. There was a spreadsheet on the screen with lines of text I did not bother to read. Mila's stuffed animal sat next to the keyboard, like she had been there earlier. He asked how my session was. I said it was amazing, that Marco had pushed me hard. Aaron's jaw twitched. He asked if I could at least stop saying Marco's name like that in front of Mila. I told him he was policing my words now too. He said he wanted to ask something important. He asked if I would consider switching to a female trainer just to stop this situation from getting worse. He said people at the restaurant were already talking, that Tara's stories made it look like more than training. I crossed my arms and asked if he was going to choose my friends for me next. I accused him of trying to trap me back into the house. He said that was not what he meant, but I did not let him finish. I said he was trying to control my body and my schedule, and that he had no right after letting himself go for years. He went quiet again. He looked back down at the spreadsheet and clicked something. A small side window popped up that said, "File uploaded successfully," and then disappeared. I felt a twist of irritation that he could sit there and do his little computer things while I was busy improving us both. I told myself he was hiding in numbers because he could not handle real life. The next night, my session with Marco ran over. The gym was almost empty, lights dimmer, music softer. As I did lunges across the floor, Marco's eyes followed my movements in the mirror. He said my form was beautiful now. I said it was because he actually cared about my progress, unlike some people. He asked if things were bad at home. I told him Aaron used my gym time to act like a victim. I said he threatened to leave me over nothing. That was not exactly what he said, but it made me sound trapped and him sound ungrateful. Marco frowned and said he did not want to cause trouble in my marriage. I told him the trouble was there long before he showed up. I said Aaron never made me feel seen, not like this. That last part was true in the moment, because Marco was looking at me like I was the only person in the room. I forgot that he looked at a lot of women like that. After we finished, Marco walked me through the locker hallway toward the side door. The air back there was cooler, the music muted. I joked that he was escorting me like a bodyguard. He laughed and said he knew how to treat a woman. I paused at the door, heart beating faster. We were close and no one else was around. For a second, I thought about Aaron at home, probably folding little socks or adjusting some line on that spreadsheet. Then I leaned into the feeling I liked better. I stepped closer. He put a hand on my waist, then both arms around me in a hug that lingered. It was not a quick, friendly squeeze. It was slow, deliberate. I stayed there. When I looked up, he kissed me, a short, sure kiss. My stomach flipped, and my skin buzzed. I laughed after, a high, nervous laugh. I said now he really was hotter than my husband. He shook his head and told me I was bad. I liked the word bad, coming from him. It sounded like praise. When I walked to my car, I still felt that rush. I did not think about who might see us in the shadows. I unlocked the car, tossed my bag in, and sat for a moment, smiling at my reflection in the dark screen of the dash. A small red light blinked on the dash cam, but it was such a common part of the car that I barely saw it. Aaron had installed it last year after someone scratched the bumper. I had forgotten it was even there. At home, he was on the sofa, the TV on but low. Mila was already asleep. He asked if everything at the gym went okay. I said it was fine, just a long session. He looked at me for a moment like he wanted to ask more, then nodded. He said he had updated some things in our household folder and that I should look at them soon. I said I was too tired and that I trusted him. I never meant to open that folder anyway. In bed, I lay awake longer than usual. My body still hummed from Marco's touch. I told myself nothing serious had happened. It was only a kiss. It was nothing like an affair. Aaron's breathing was slow and steady beside me, turned away toward his side of the bed. For a moment, I felt a small ache, remembering how he used to hold me. Then I pushed that feeling down and told myself he had chosen to be distant long before I ever chose to look elsewhere. Later, when the room was dark and quiet, I heard him get up. The mattress lifted gently as he slid out of bed. I heard his steps down the hall. A door clicked, the small guest room we barely used. There was a faint sound, like a drawer opening and then closing with a soft thud. I stayed where I was. I did not ask why he needed that room or what he kept in there now. In my mind, he was still just the man with the spreadsheets, too focused on numbers and not enough on me. I did not yet understand that numbers could tell stories too if someone wrote them carefully enough. The Sunday of the barbecue, the sky was clear and hot, the kind of day people say is perfect for family. I woke up in a good mood. I told myself it was because of the weather, not because I had another gym session booked for the next morning. Aaron was already up, packing a small bag for Mila. He asked if I had talked to my mom about what time we should be there. I said she knew we would show up when we showed up. At Ruth's house, the backyard was full of folding chairs, plastic tables, and the smell of meat on the grill. My mum moved around like she owned the world, calling to everyone, telling them where to sit. Phoebe waved me over as soon as she saw me. She said she had a story about a guy at her bar, but first, she wanted to hear the latest trainer drama. I could feel Aaron stiffen beside me when she said that. I kissed Mila on the head and went to stand near the cooler with Phoebe and Tara, who had come too. Tara said people were still sharing the clip of me calling Marco hotter than Aaron. She said they thought I was hilarious. That made something proud rise in my chest. Being funny, being talked about, felt like proof I was not just some invisible wife. Aaron took a plate and started making food for Mila, carefully cutting her hot dog. Elaine sat near him, watching. She asked how work was going for him. He said it was fine, busy. She then asked softly if everything was okay at home. I saw him glance at me. I turned my head and laughed at something Phoebe said, like nothing was wrong. When everyone had food and drinks, we settled around the main table. Ruth poured herself a glass of wine and raised it. She said she wanted to toast to strong women who do not let men shrink them. She nodded at me, and everyone looked. I smiled, even though I knew Aaron could hear every word. Phoebe leaned forward and told the group that I had become the star of the gym. She said my trainer was obsessed with my progress. Someone asked which trainer. Tara pulled up a photo of Marco on her phone and held it out, his shirt tight over his chest, his smile bright. She said he was the one I had called hotter than my husband. People laughed again. Aaron tried to stay quiet, but his face was tight. Someone, one of his cousins, asked if he was jealous. He said in a firm voice that he did not like being compared to another man like that, especially in public. I sighed loudly. I told everyone he was still upset about a joke. I said some people did not know how to relax. Ruth backed me up. She said men were always afraid when women improved themselves, that they liked us tired and soft. She said Aaron should be proud that other men looked at his wife. I watched him flinch, and instead of feeling sorry, I felt a strange power. I told myself that if he felt small, it was because he refused to grow. Then he said something that changed the tone. He looked at me and said he did not want his wife being intimate with another man at the gym. His voice was not loud, but it had an edge. The table went quiet for a moment. I felt heat rush to my face. I knew what he meant. He knew about the way Marco and I acted, even if he did not have the full truth. I laughed in a sharp way and said he was making up stories. I said he was calling normal training intimate because he could not handle seeing me close to anyone else. I turned to the table and said he had started to talk like this a lot, acting like a victim every time I had a social life. I painted his discomfort as some kind of emotional abuse toward me. Elaine finally spoke. She said she did not like hearing their marriage turned into a joke in front of everyone. She said public teasing was one thing, but this sounded serious. Ruth's eyes flashed. She said Elaine did not understand what it was like for modern women. She said in our time we did not stay small just to protect a man's pride. The two of them looked at each other across the table, polite words with sharp edges. I saw a line being drawn between our families and told myself it was not my fault. After a while, the talk moved on. People ate, kids ran in the yard, music played low from a speaker by the steps. Erin stayed near the kids, pushing Mila on the small swing, steady and quiet. I stayed near the drinks, loud and smiling. When the afternoon sun started to fade, Tara said we should all go out later, just the younger ones. She suggested the rooftop bar downtown. I hesitated, then said yes. Erin heard and asked how late I would be. I told him not to start again, that Mila would be asleep and he could handle bedtime. As we were leaving, I saw Aaron step to the side with Ryan. They stood near the fence, half in shade. I could not hear every word, but I caught some. Aaron said he needed advice about this situation and asked if Ryan still had that contact he had mentioned months ago when his co-worker's wife cheated. He said he wanted to know how to document things properly and make sure he did what was best for Mila. The words properly and document stuck in my ears. Ryan nodded slowly and put a hand on his shoulder. I felt a pinch of fear. Then I told myself he was bluffing, trying to scare me. I said quietly in my head that he would never actually leave me. I believed it because it was easier. That night at the rooftop bar, the city lights spread out around us like a flat sea. The music was loud enough that people had to lean close to talk. Tara ordered rounds of drinks and held her phone up, filming everything. Phoebe danced beside me. After a while, Marco arrived in a fitted shirt, smelling like cologne and gym soap. When he walked through the crowd, heads turned. I felt proud, like I had done that, like I had picked something shiny. He came over and hugged me. It was not discreet. His hand stayed low on my back. Tara whispered that my husband could never compete with this. I told her he did not even try. Marco asked if Aaron was okay with me being out. I rolled my eyes and said Aaron always acted like I was cheating, even when I was not. I left out the part about the kiss in the locker hallway. It was easier to stay a victim in my own story. On the dance floor, Marco pulled me close. The music thumped, bodies moved, lights flashed blue and purple across our faces. He placed his hand on my waist, fingers pressing into my hip. At one point, he leaned in and brushed his lips against my neck. Tara, a few steps away, raised her phone and got part of it on video. I saw the light of the screen and did not stop her. I liked that it was proof of how wanted I was. Later, at the table, Tara showed me the clips. In one, I was laughing with my head thrown back, Marco's arm around me. In another, his mouth was low near my neck. She said she would crop them so people did not see too much. She posted a short version of us close together and wrote a caption about gym partners who understand you better than your own husband. I pretended to be shocked, then tapped like on my own video. On the way home, I checked my phone again and again, watching the views go up. Comments came in, little flames and hearts and jokes about cheating. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt powerful. The only time I felt a crack in that power was when I thought of Aaron sitting at home, maybe seeing the same clips. I told myself, if he was hurt, it was because he still cared, and that meant I still had control. Back at the apartment, the lights were dim. Aaron sat at the table, laptop open, a mug on one side, his phone on the other. He did not look drunk or angry. He looked calm, like someone who had decided something. He asked if I had fun. I said it was amazing, and that he should come next time if he wanted to see what real energy looked like. He nodded slowly. As I walked past, I saw his screen. A simple grid of dates and notes filled the view. Some lines had words like BBQ, public comments, and rooftop bar clips saved. I also saw a small USB drive next to the laptop, a tiny date written on a sticker. For a moment, my stomach tightened. Then I told myself he was just being dramatic again, collecting moments like a child collects rocks. I did not yet understand that he was building something that would not care how I felt about it at all. The morning after the rooftop bar, the apartment felt smaller. The air was thick with old cooking smells, and something I did not want to name. Aaron was already dressed when I woke up. He stood by the dresser, folding one of his work shirts with careful hands. I asked why he was up so early. He said he had things to do before work. His voice was flat. In the kitchen, he had already made Mila's breakfast. She sat at the table, swinging her legs, crumbs on her cheeks. When I walked in, she smiled and said Daddy had braided her hair. The braid was a little crooked, but she looked proud. I laughed and said it was cute. Inside, I felt a twist. He was taking over places where I used to be needed. I did not like that. He asked if we could talk that evening. Just us, after Mila went to sleep. I asked if this was about the bar again. He said it was about everything. I told him I was tired of heavy talks and that he should get over it. He said we could not keep going like this. I shrugged and said he was the one making it hard. Then I left for work. At the clinic, Tara rushed in late, phone in hand, eyes bright. She said the new clips from the bar had done well. She laughed about a comment from some stranger who said Marco and I looked like a power couple. I smiled even though my stomach fluttered. Then, around mid-morning, my manager came out from her office and asked if I could step in for a moment. In the small HR room, the walls were covered with fake motivational posters. My manager looked uncomfortable. She said she had received a quiet comment from a patient who followed me online. The patient had seen my videos at the bar and the old clip about my trainer being hotter than my husband. She had joked about it, but then said she felt strange seeing her dental assistant in spicy videos with a man who was not her husband. My manager said it could affect the clinic's image. I felt heat rush to my face. I said Aaron must have told people to complain. I said he was trying to ruin my job because he could not control me at home. That was easier than admitting I had posted the videos myself for attention. My manager said she did not know anything about my husband, only what the patient said. She told me to be careful about how I presented myself publicly. I nodded and pretended to be the hurt wife of a jealous man. Inside, I blamed Aaron completely. After work, I went straight home. The sun was low, the light in the living room was thin and orange. Aaron was on the sofa with Mila, reading her a picture book. He looked up when I walked in. There was no anger in his eyes, only a kind of distance I had not seen before. It scared me more than shouting would have. We put Mila to bed together. She asked if I would stay home that night. I said yes, of course. She smiled and wrapped her arms around my neck. When I closed her door, I saw Aaron waiting in the hallway, back against the wall. He said we should talk now. I said fine, as long as he listened this time. We sat at the small dining table. His laptop was closed. The little USB drive was not in sight. For once, he looked at me with nothing between us. He started by saying he loved me. He said he had tried to ignore the jokes and the videos, tried to believe they were harmless. Then he said he could not ignore them anymore. He told me he had seen more than I thought. He said he had watched the dashcam footage of Marco hugging me and kissing me by the side door. He described the way Marco's hand slid around my waist. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. I said he was misreading it, that trainers got close, that it was how they corrected form. It sounded weak even to me. He said he had saved the dashcam file. He said he had also saved Tara's videos from the rooftop bar before they disappeared. He talked about the way Marco kissed my neck, the way I smiled. He did not raise his voice. He spoke like he was giving a report. He said he had dates, times, even names of people who were there. I snapped back that he was stalking me. I said he was obsessed and creepy, collecting videos of his own wife like some stranger. I told him normal husbands did not spy on their wives' social media. He answered that I had made those moments public. He said anyone could see them. He also said the dashcam was ours, that he had installed it to protect our car, not to trap me. I called it sneaky anyway. He asked me directly if I had feelings for Marco. I refused to answer. I said the real question was why he had stopped making me feel wanted, why he had let me carry the weight of the home while he sat with his screens. He listened, but his face did not change. He said none of that justified what I had done. I said I had not done anything real. I said there had been no full affair, no secret hotel rooms, no double life. I told him he was blowing a few drunk dances and friendly kisses out of proportion. He looked tired, older than his 34 years. He said betrayal was not only about what bodies did in private. It was about choices in public too, the way I had made him a joke. For a moment, I felt a flicker of shame. Then I pushed it away and told him he was just hurt because he knew Marco was hotter, younger, better. I said he could fix that if he wanted, but he chose not to. I made his pain into a competition he could not win. He sat back and took a slow breath. He said he had spoken to someone about our situation. I asked if someone meant his mother. He shook his head. He said he had asked for legal advice. The word legal made my stomach twist again. He did not give names. He just said he understood his options now. I laughed, sharp and high. I told him he was threatening me. I said he was trying to scare me into quitting the gym and cutting off all my friends. I told him Ruth and Phoebe would destroy him online if he tried anything. He did not react. He said he did not want a war. He said he wanted stability for Mila and some respect for himself. He told me he had set up his own separate bank account weeks ago. He said part of his pay now went there. He said rent and basics were covered, but he was done letting our money be used to pay for extra training sessions and nights out that ended in humiliation for him. I called him selfish and controlling. Inside, I felt the ground shift. The idea that he could move money without me noticing made me angry in a way I did not show. That night, he did not come to bed. He took his pillow and a blanket and went to the guest room. I followed him to the door and asked if he was really going to sleep in there like some kind of martyr. He said he needed space. I told him he was abandoning me. He said he was protecting himself. As he stepped inside, I saw the small desk in the corner, the neat stack of papers, the closed laptop, the drawer I had heard before. On the desk, his phone buzzed with a new alarm he had just set. The screen lit up for a second. I caught the words paper drop before it went dark. I asked what that meant. He said only that he would handle everything properly now and that there was nothing more to talk about tonight. Then he closed the door, and I was left in the hallway, suddenly unsure of how much control I really had. Saturday morning, the gym lobby smelled like coffee and rubber and cheap perfume. It was busy, louder than usual. Weekend crowd. People checked in. Music from the class studio thumped through the wall. I walked in wearing my tightest set, the one Tara said made my trainer lose focus. Mila was with me, holding my hand. Aaron had said he would meet us afterward and take her to his mom's. He said he wanted her to see both sides of the family on weekends. I told him I could handle drop-off myself. He said he had other plans. Marco was behind the front desk, leaning on his elbows, flirting with the girl at the computer. When he saw me, he straightened, smiled big, and said I looked dangerous today. I laughed and said my husband should be scared. I said it loud, like a joke. A few heads turned. I liked that. Tara appeared from the turnstile, phone already in her hand. She said we had to get a cute lobby shot before class. She pulled me toward the window, angling for the best light. Mila tugged my sleeve and asked if Daddy was coming inside. I told her he was just picking her up later, like always. I did not see him yet, but I felt sure he was close. Then a man in a simple suit stepped into my space. He was calm, neutral, like someone asking for directions. He said my full name, my real full name. Not Izzy, not Babe. Isolde Lane Pierce? I blinked. I said yes on reflex. He held out a thick envelope. He said he was a process server and that he had documents for me from Aaron Pierce. The world seemed to tilt for a second. Tara's phone dropped a little. Marco straightened behind the desk. I laughed, too loud, and said this had to be a joke. The man didn't laugh. He placed the packet in my hand. He said I was served, then stepped back. People stared. The music from the studio kept going, but the lobby sounds thinned out. Mila looked up at me, eyes wide. Before she could ask, I saw Aaron to the side, near the benches. He stood with Ryan and Elaine. Ryan had a small backpack on his shoulder, probably with Mila's things. Elaine knelt, holding out her arms to our daughter. I called Aaron's name. My voice shook. I asked what this was, why he would embarrass me like this. He said, clearly but not loudly, that he wasn't trying to embarrass me. He said he was just starting the formal process. He told me everything I needed to know was in the papers and that his lawyer's contact was on the front page. I tore open the envelope with shaking fingers. The first page said, Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. The words blurred, then sharpened. Under reasons, I saw phrases: marital misconduct, public humiliation, exposure of minor child to inappropriate romantic conduct. Dates were listed: BBQ, rooftop bar, gym parking lot. The nights I had turned him into a punchline were written in neutral ink. Behind it was a motion for temporary orders. My eyes ran over the lines. Aaron requesting primary custody of Mila during school weeks. Scheduled visits for me, specific days and times. A rule about no unrelated overnight guests when Mila was present. A note that joint accounts were frozen, except for a set amount each month for my basic expenses. The apartment listed as his residence, with 30 days for me to vacate. I said he couldn't do that. I said he was stealing my life, my child, my home. He shook his head. He said he was protecting our daughter and his own dignity, that he had not shouted, hit, or cheated. He said these were just the consequences of choices I kept making. He sounded like someone reading from a script he had practiced many times. Marco muttered that he didn't want to be involved and stepped back, hands raised. Tara's phone was still in her hand, but she wasn't filming anymore. People pretended not to look, which somehow felt worse than open staring. Becca from the desk watched with wide eyes, like she had seen this building for weeks and was only now watching it fall. Elaine called softly to Mila. My daughter looked from the papers in my hand to her father. He opened his arms. She ran to him, small shoes squeaking on the floor. He picked her up carefully, as if she were made of glass, and kissed her hair. Then he turned toward the door. I wanted to scream, to grab his arm, to make another joke that would turn this into a story I controlled. But the weight of the envelope in my hand was real, heavier than any words I had. Aaron walked out of the gym lobby, holding our daughter, Ryan, beside him. The automatic doors slid open, then closed. I was left standing there under the bright lights, in the body I had worked so hard for, with a stack of papers that said my marriage was already ending.